6, we are raising the voices of hundreds of women so their messages can be heard. Your host for this session is Christy Spurka from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She's your tour guide to inner healing and shares weekly live readings with her community. She's got another amazing guest coming right up. Take it away, Christy.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the final call of the evening on the Voices of Women Summit 2026 in honor of International Women's Day. I am so excited to bring to you today Gail Larson, who is here to talk about pearls of empowerment for maneuvering change and transition. I'm very excited about this topic, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it, Gail. But before we jump in, can you please share with us why you are so passionate about this topic?
Well, I am really passionate about this because change and transition and resilience has a name. And that name is actually Winnie Pearl. So you see that picture? I keep going left and right. See that picture right there? That's my mother, and her name was
Oh,
Winnie Pearl. And
I
that's
love
where
that.
I got the title Pearls of Empowerment. But it has a name because she was the one that empowered me by the way she lived her life to be able to deal with change and transition. And so
Mm.
this year is the anniversary, so to speak, of her passing 40 years ago. And
Wow.
so I'm all about legacy. She left her legacy for me, and I am leaving my legacy for my children and for my grandchildren. And so that's how I came up with the name Pearls of Empowerment, because I wanted to honor her, number one, and then also just bring home the point about pearls. You might notice I have pearls on right now. So,
Yes.
for all of those that might be listening out there, I just have a question for you. And you could maybe, put the answer to this question in the chat. And that is, how many of you out there love to be irritated? If you like being irritated, put a yes. If not, then put a no.
That is a no from me.
And I would imagine everyone would say no, and I don't either. But the interesting thing about this is that oysters hate irritation as well. So when an irritant enters an oyster's shell, instead of rejecting it, it emits this, I don't know, you call it a substance around that irritant, and then that's how oysters form pearls. So they take something irritating and then they turn it into something beautiful. And so that's why pearls symbolize resilience and transformation. Hence, the title, Pearls of Empowerment.
That's
So the
beautiful.
thing about, yeah, so the thing about that is that most people see change as an irritant.
Hmm.
When things are just going around the way they should be going, you're going throughout your life and everything is just like hunky dory. And then all of a sudden, all that changes. And then you're just like, what? So that's why I really address change and transition because it happens in every aspect of our life. When we start thinking about how are we going to deal with this change, immediately we're fearful. And the kinds of fear, we fear failure, we
Hmm.
fear the unknown, we
Hmm.
fear loss, and for many of us, we fear loving again.
Mm.
Like Deborah in the last call, she was talking about the loss of a loved one. You may
Yeah.
fear, I will never love again.
Hmm.
So with all of these fears, there's a lot that can come out of it. So if you fear failure, that could actually turn into new learning because from failure, you learn how to do things better. And then the fear of the unknown could actually lead to new discoveries because you've just never done it before. And then the fear of loss can just lead to just, I don't know, unimaginable gains. And then, of
Yeah.
course, when you overcome that fear of loving again, you just open up your heart to change and you just never know what might happen. So
That's
that's
so
why.
powerful.
That's my why.
That's so powerful, and it's keeping on theme with a lot of what the women on this track have talked about today, and I love that symbiosis that we've experienced here on track 5 today. And something that stood out from one of the talks earlier, she talked about how when a baby is learning to walk, we don't say, "Oh my God, you failed, stop." We cheer them on to get up and keep going. And what you're speaking of is very reminiscent of that, right? Use those irritants to create that pearl, to create change. Cheer yourself on, find opportunity in the challenge.
That's exactly right. And it just doesn't, like you said, it just doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that we go
Mhm.
through. So instead of, me saying we're just dealing with change, we're dealing with change and transition because it's a
Mhm.
process and it just doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of people may think, well, okay, I can get the strategies for change, but what it does require is that you have a relationship with your past and you
Mhm.
have a relationship with what your expectations are for the future. Because if
Mhm.
you have, let's say, unresolved issues about the past, then it's going to be really difficult for you to move on. And if you have
Mhm.
unrealistic expectations about the future, then that change is going to be rocky as well.
Right. I love that. I've
So
never heard it described that way. You have a relationship with the past, but you also have a relationship with the expectation. That,
that's exactly right. So then when you think about developing that relationship with the past and the relationship with the future, the main thing is the center of both of those. And that is really finding your presence. So if you can find safety and presence in the place where you are, it makes you
Mhm.
more adept at dealing with the past and dealing with the future.
Yeah.
So in the different talks that I do, I take the word empowerment and every letter in that word empowerment, there's a lesson behind. And
Mm.
so we could take it like in the order of empowerment, or we could, I could leave it to you, Christy, because this is something that we're discovering, and I want to keep you awake because you've been doing this all day. So we're going to do it this way. You could choose any letter in empowerment, and then I could talk about a strategy for dealing with change. And then when we get to the end of our session here, we may not have hit all the letters, but we will have gotten a lot of lessons. So how about that? We'll
I
put it in
love
your
that.
head.
I love that. And I love what you're talking about. It's wrapping up all there's I wish everybody, I hope everybody here today goes back to the replays and watches everybody that spoke today because you are summarizing everything in such a beautiful way that's been talked about. And it's you are the perfect nightcap to today. Um, and so, on that note, let's start. I'm being called to address the letter P. Let's talk about the letter P.
Okay, perfect. And a matter of fact, even people that are listening, they could put in letters just because they're curious. So the
Absolutely.
P in empowerment, when you're going through change, and maybe you found out that they're doing a reorganization at your work, and there's a possibility that you have to move to a different position or find another position, or I don't know, maybe you're going through some sort of change where you got to meet new people and new areas. So the P is proving your credibility and character. So when you're going through this, I mean, when you are encountering these new situations and you want to remain either in that same space or either you want to move to that new space, how do you let other people know that you're credible?
Mhm.
How do you let other people know that, your character is worthy of moving on to this new space? And so, how do you do that? It's a matter of, establishing trust. Maybe this change means you're going to a new team. Or if you're a leader, maybe this change means you're going to be managing a new team. The very first thing that you have to do is establish your credibility, establish trust, know that people can depend upon you. So that's what the P is. It's proving your credibility and character.
I love that. Establishing trust to prove your credibility and character. And so we have in the chat, Chris is asking about the letter O.
Ah, okay. So, when you're going through change, you're not going through change in a vacuum. You may feel like you're alone, but what you're doing with the letter O is observing others that are in transition.
Mm.
So, again, if it's a matter of going to a new team in your workplace, maybe you're experiencing the end of a relationship, whatever that might be. You should reach out to others that may be going through the same thing. Or if it's in the workplace and you see that your team is going through changes, because they're not ready for this change. Observe, are they adapting? And if they are adapting, how are they adapting? If you're the leader as part of this and you observe this, what kind of strategies can you help them to move on? If you feel like you're a victim of change, and that's a whole nother story, but if this change has been thrust upon you, observe others and how they are dealing with it. Sometimes you might have to dig back into your past and observe how others have done that in the past. So it's really, you try to gather, you know, other people that are going through the same thing by just observing what's going on, So it's not going on in a vacuum and you feel like you're part of, a whole group.
I love that. I always say that people learn best by observing, right? And so when you're in transition, what better way to learn to get through that transition than to observe how other people are doing it in that context?
That's right.
Wonderful. And Chrissy is asking for the letter E, and we have three E's in Pearls of Empowerment. So I'm curious what bomb pearls, I was gonna say wisdom bombs.
Yeah, when I was writing my book, Pearls of Empowerment, and then I realized I had the three E's, um, it wasn't a challenge, but it was an opportunity to explore a lot of different things.
Mhm.
So I'm going to address now actually the last E, and that is educating and encouraging creativity. And the reason
Ooh.
why I want to go to that one first is because during the time that I was writing the book, it was the explosion of AI. And it was making, I don't know, it was making a lot of changes within the workplace. It was making a lot of changes within the way people did business in the
Mhm.
workplace. It was actually taking people out of the workplace because they figured, well, we got AI now, so we can, we don't need these jobs. They were eliminating jobs. It was all of that. So the educating part of that E is that whenever you're going through change, you need to really educate yourself or either take courses and so forth in order to make sure that you are prepared for that next step, that you
Mm.
have the knowledge and what it takes to be part of that new community that you're changing to, or if it's a situation where, and this happens in the corporate world where people are getting pitted against one another. So making
Mhm.
sure that you have the right stuff through that education so you could be successful during that whole transition. And then
Hmm.
also the other E, as far as educating and encouraging creativity, is because anytime you go through change, you have to be creative with how you do this. And if you're being observed, for example, how you're going through this change, because we hope everybody's looking at everybody, then would you rather look at and observe and interact with that person who is exhibiting creativity and new ideas and other ways of looking at things? Or are you going to be with that person, stay with that person that always does the same thing, who always gets the same results? So if you're the leader of that team, you want to encourage creativity of all of your teammates. If you're part of a team, you want to exhibit that you are the creative one to whoever your leader is, your manager is, your company is, or if it's in a personal relationship and it's going through change, you want to be that person that is always excited about what's next, who is always trying to create things that are going to mix things up so people are excited to be around you. So that's one of the E's.
I
The,
love that. And that, not to cut you off, but that brings it back to, well, that's how you can help prove your credibility, right? By encouraging
exactly.
that creativity. And so what are the other two E's now that I'm done cutting you off?
Well, no, 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 you're not cutting me off at all. I love this maneuvering through all the different letters in a different order. So the first E is endurance and conditioning. And
Mm.
the endurance and conditioning really has to do with your physical and mental state. So if you are conditioning for endurance, that's that's where you are staying physically fit. You are making sure that you're getting enough sleep. You are
Mhm.
exercising because if all of a sudden you hear of this change or this change happens or you have to make changes, but you don't feel physically fit, that's going to affect the outcome. That's going to affect how you interact with people. That's going to affect everything. And then also the mental conditioning. You keep yourself mentally sound, mentally safe, so you can be safe and present, so you can deal with all of those things that are, coming at you from all sides. So you're physically fit, you're mentally fit. So that's endurance and conditioning. That's the first E. And then the other E, fortunately, we dealt with already, and that is embracing the unknown. Because when
Oh.
we first started, we talked about, how change makes you full of failure and,
Mhm.
well, the feeling of failure and, fear of the unknown, that kind of thing. So the other one is embracing the unknown so we can discover new things.
I love that. And we have Lena, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, asking for the letter L appropriately. And we'll end there before we move into your gift.
The letter L.
Yes.
Well, there's no L, Lana, in empowerment.
Oh, I thought
However,
L was we were talking about in I thought pearls was part of it too. So that's
it's
why I think,
it's just empowerment, and we're doing,
oh, you're tricking us
but
now.
yeah, she is tricking us, but if I had to have a L, it's part of what I addressed before, and that is, just being open to loving again. Because a lot of times
Mm,
people become so attached to their current situation that they don't open themselves up for loving something else. Maybe we love the school that we're going to, but if we go to a different school, be open to loving that experience at a different school. Or if we love our current job, but because of the change, we have to go to another job, be
mhm.
open to loving another job again. So thanks for
Beautiful.
tripping me up, Lana.
You had to do some what do you call it? God, I can't think when you had to off the cuff, right? That was
Yep,
beautiful.
impromptu
Improv.
speaking.
There we go.
Yes.
And so now you don't have a gift, but you do have a podcast on Spotify, which our team will drop the link. And can you share with us a little bit about what we can expect on your podcast?
Well, the podcast is something that I started this year in order to kind of break it up because the last couple of years I published these 5 books that all had
Mhm.
my quotes. And so I thought, well, when I did Pearls of Empowerment, I thought that I would do something different. So the podcast itself is called Breaking the Silence, Finding the Courage to be Heard. And I've had so many people to say to me, oh, I'm not a public speaker. Oh, I just can't stand, speaking in front of other people. And breaking the silence really I'm interviewing guests who give their point of view about how to overcome public speaking or just to be out there to raise your voice in a way that you can speak about what you want to speak about and have the confidence to engage with others without being fearful. So it's really about speaking. And I got a lot of that because I'm a member of Toastmasters International
I love
and,
that.
do speaking as well. And my
Yes.
jobs have always put me in front of people. So I figured, I'm helping others to overcome that fear.
I love that because one of the things I like to say is that for the world to progress and evolve, we need to heal men and empower women, right? And a big part of empowering women is helping them to find their voice. So I love that's what you're addressing with your podcast. And I can't wait to listen and maybe I'll come be a guest for you sometime.
That would be phenomenal. I will definitely reach out to you because we have a couple of spots left for this season.
Oh,
And so
perfect.
that
I love
would
that.
be wonderful.
That
So
sounds
the
like a
other way that
plan.
they oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the
No,
other
go
way
for
they
it.
could reach me is through my website, which is larsonslegacybank.com. So all of my podcasts are on there and, a lot of everything that I talk about is at that website. So it's Larson's Legacy Bank, all one word, .com.
And that's Larson's with the plural with the S, right?
Right, LARSONS, and then Legacy Bank.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today, my dear. I feel so empowered by your pearls of wisdom. Before we hop off, do you have a quick last little pearl of wisdom for us?
Well, I would have to say, and I'll just use one of my quotes from my earlier books, um, Weekly Windows of Wisdom, and that is for everyone, be quotable
Mm,
because what you say matters and
mhm.
it will be remembered. So,
Love that. So beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today and dropping your pearls of empowerment. Thank you to our audience who came in and shared the energy that you brought to the table today. Thank you to everybody who's participated in the Voices of Women Summit. This is our final call for the evening. We are now moving over to track 1 for the wrap-up call for the Love Fest, where we get to come together and share our takeaways and love on each other. So I hope to see everybody over there on track 1 when this call ends. It's been a pleasure to be here with you all today, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future. Cheers,
thank
everybody.
you. Nice meeting you, Christy.
So lovely to meet you, Gail. Thank you.
Wow, that was an amazing speaker, but it's not over yet. Up next is our wrap up call, where you'll get to share your takeaways and gratitudes for the day. That's right, it's your turn to grab the mic and share your thoughts on the amazing speakers we've had today. Stay tuned, we've got the wrap up call up next.